Hey everybody, this tutorial comes to me as a suggestion from a subscriber. Okay, the subscriber is my dad, but he's still a subscriber. I was over at my parents' house the other night and naturally travel photos came up, and my dad takes thousands of travel photos a year, and his question to me was, how do I use the software that I already have to make these photos look the best that they possibly can? And so we looked at what he's using, and he's an Apple user. He has an iPhone, an iPad, and a Mac Mini. So my suggestion to him was, let's look at Apple Photos and see what kind of post-processing we can do within that program. So what I'm going to take you through today is the basics of editing and adjustments in Apple Photos to pull the best you possibly can out of those photos that you're taking. So here we are, we're inside Apple Photos. I've loaded it up and I've imported a photograph that I took of my dog Maggie, and here we are in that last import album. I'm just going to double click on the photo and load it up here, and what you'll notice is in the upper right hand corner we're going to get this little edit button, and I'm going to click that so we can edit the photo, and the interface goes dark like this and gives us all of these tools. Let me go ahead and maximize this window, so I'm going to go ahead and go full screen. Click the green button there, and there we go. Now we're not going to go over everything in detail. We're really going to focus on the things right here under Adjust. So first off, what we have here at the top is the Enhance. Now this is just going to automatically look at the photograph and say, okay, what can we do to improve it? And it's just going to try to do it automatically. I'm going to go ahead and hit it and see what it does. And you'll actually already see that for this image, it went ahead and made all of these colors a little more saturated and gave us a little bit more contrast in the image. So it's actually pretty nice. Sometimes you won't see a lot happen if you hit Enhance, no big deal. Underneath that, you've got Rotate. So say this image wasn't rotated correctly, we could spin it around. Underneath that, we have the Crop function. Now, we might want to crop this image a little bit, and so we can go ahead and click on that, and it's going to bring up these edges here and this little radial dial so we can rotate the image if we thought that the image wasn't quite level. What we can do is we can grab these corners and move this around and adjust the size of our image. Now we can use this rule of thirds guides. You see those little crosshairs that pop up to sort of properly compose our image. I'm not going to go into the rules of thirds, but I'm going to use them as little crosshairs to kind of place them on pieces of interest in my photograph, one of them being Maggie. So I'll go ahead and just let go right there. And then if we just move off of the image, it'll go ahead and crop that for us. Looking pretty good. So now that we've got our crop taken care of, we can look below that. We see filters. We're not going to go over the filters, but below that we have Adjust. And that's really what I want to take a look at for the rest of this tutorial. So we're going to go ahead and click that and we'll see what comes up. And by default, if you've never used this before, this is probably how it's going to look. You're going to have light, color, and black and white. Pretty simple. Under light, if we just grab this little slider and move it around, we can notice that the brightness of our image changes. If we go below that, we have color, and this is really just the amount of saturation we have in the image. And then underneath that, we have black and white. So if we wanted to make this a black and white image, we could click on it here, and we could start adjusting the slider here to get some different effects in our black and white image. I'm going to uncheck that blue check right there, and it'll go back to being color. It doesn't look like we have a lot of options here, but look when we hover over, we have these little down arrows here. If we click that, it'll actually open up and show us a lot more things under each one of these functions here. So we can look as we open color and even black and white, we have a lot more things we can start adjusting. So if we want to adjust the exposure, say, of the overall image, but wanted to adjust just, say, the exposure of the shadows in the image, we can now do that by twirling this down. So play with these and you have a lot more functions, a lot more like a pro level post-processing application would have. But that's not all. Now we've got all of these, but we'll see this blue add button up here. If we click that, we have even more things we can add in and we can start playing with. We've got the histogram, which I'm not going to go into what it does, but it's very handy once you know, and we'll do a tutorial on that at some point. But we also have sharpen, definition, noise reduction. We can add a vignette. White balance and levels are advanced functions, and we won't worry about that, but all you have to do is click on one and it'll add it down here. And again, under each one of those, you have several different options. And so you can adjust the sharpness of the image, but also, how it's affecting the different sharp edges within your image there. So I'm not going to get into exactly what each one of those things does. That's for you to play around with, and we can go into a lot more detail in a different tutorial. But you can see that within Apple Photos, there is quite a number of things that you can tweak to improve the quality of your image. We feel like we're done with this image, and we say, we don't really like it. At any point in time, you can always revert back to the original and start over. So I hope you learned something about Apple Photos and the adjustments. I will be doing a tutorial where we go into a lot more detail and sort of my process for how I would use all of those particular intricate functions to treat a photo in Apple Photos. So please subscribe, and I hope to see you again soon.